just wanted to get with you and talk a little bit about what's happening with crowds across our country, dangerous crowds, blocking freeways, blocking streets, taking over portions of the city. And I just want to talk to you very quickly about 5 things that you better not do if you're caught in one of those crowds, because like everything else we talk about in security, you got to think about what you would do in a situation like this before it actually happens. And unfortunately, for thousands and thousands of people across our country, like that, they found themselves in traffic jams with cars stopped and angry militant protesters blocking the roads. Some of them have their own issues. All of them are angry over the situation in the Middle East. And if you wander into this, let's just say things may not go well for you. And so I want to talk to you again about 5 things not to do if you find yourself in a hostile crowd. Because if you can pre-plan this, if you can think about things that you can do and things you better not do, then you're going to be in a position to come out okay. And let me just say this, folks, many people don't come out okay because they don't think about things like this. And now all of a sudden they're in the middle of a hostile crowd. And I will tell you, folks, I have been in hostile crowds. I've been in hostile crowds as a law enforcement officer, as a Secret Service agent, and it's a scary place to be. I don't care who you are. But when you're in a hostile crowd, whether it's in a car, whether it's you're caught up in a protest, and you don't know what to do, you can very, very quickly begin to do things that will not only get you hurt, but maybe even seriously injured in the process. And so I want to talk to you about 5 things not to do when you get into the crowd and it's hostile. And let me start with number 1. And this may seem like it's common sense, folks, but I'll guarantee you, you got to think about this beforehand, and that's you don't panic. You see, panic brings other panic to people. Especially if you're trying to lead your family out of there, whether it's in a vehicle or whether it's on foot, the most important thing you can do is keep calm and keep your composure. One of the things we train a lot of folks in law enforcement. We train a lot of folks that are understanding self-protection and weapons. One of the first things we train people is to avoid panic is to do what's called box breathing. Because here's the reality, folks. If you box breathe, you're able to keep the airflow going in your body under stress when your heart starts beating out of the chest, and you have to have the ability to breathe. Well, that can happen in your planning. So you box breathe. What do I mean by box breathe, Tim? Well, you're in a situation, it's going bad, your stress levels are coming up. You basically breathe in for 4 seconds, you hold it for 4 seconds, you breathe out for 4 seconds, you hold it for 4 seconds. Really, Tim? That's what you're telling me to do is to box breathe? Yeah, because here's what's really cool about that. When you begin to take control of your breathing, you're communicating to your brain that's communicating to your emergency centers that everything's okay. You're breathing the way you should rather than putting your body into panic. This is so important. And if you don't breathe, then you can go into panic and to hyperventilation. And so breathing, again, under number 1, we're going to be controlled. We're going to breathe. The other thing, folks, is that especially if you're with your family, you want to make sure you're speaking positive words, that your facial expressions and your body language is not fearful. You're speaking positive words. Because if you find yourself in a hostile crowd and they're getting angrier and angrier and sometimes more violent and more violent, The way that you can bring that down is to you be self-controlled. So, number one, we don't panic. We're absolutely in control. We're breathing. We're looking around and taking care of kind of some optional thinking, because that's number two. You've got to begin immediately to seek safety. Well, what do you mean by that? Well, if you're in a vehicle and you're stopped, it's hard because you're in a traffic jam, which is why situational awareness, folks, is so important. Maybe you have a Waze app that shows, hey, whoa, there's a traffic backup up there. Folks, pay attention today to what's going on, because these events can pop up very, very quickly. And I'll tell you, when you're in the middle of it is not the time to figure it out. So you want to make sure that if you're in a crowd, it's going out of control, and hopefully you're not in that crowd because you've thought about it, you've planned your route, you've been monitoring media apps, and you've been monitoring your phone. But if you do, number one, you're not going to panic, you're going to breathe, you're going to be in control, you're going to speak positive words to your family, but you're looking for that way out. If you're on foot, remember that if you can go into the store and get out of the bulk of the people, all those stores have exits at the end. Oh, well, you're not supposed to use them. Guess what? In an emergency, you can go where you need to go to seek safety. The other thing is some stores, we found in incidents like that, will actually lock the door. So if you can get them to let you into the store, which is hard in the midst of it, especially if there's violence and damage going on, then that can be a temporary place of safety. The other thing, folks, and this is really important, you don't want to stick out. Don't stick out. You want to blend in. You want to be that person that if they're angry, that you're not going, oh, come on, you guys need to get over it. No, 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 that's not you. You're the one. You don't have to agree with them, but you definitely don't want to cause a stir, because what will end up happening instantly if you begin to confront people, then you're going to instantly cause a crowd, a bigger crowd, because they're going to think you're opposing what it is they're trying to do. And especially in a violent crowd, that can be problematic. And, oh, by the way, folks, I'm a big free speech person. I've protected our nation all over the world as a Marine, as a law enforcement officer, big free speech. But you know what I have on my car in terms of bumper stickers? Nothing. Because in this world, that can be a trigger event for people. Am I afraid? Nope, not at all. I don't want to bring trouble to me, especially with my families in the car. So if you get caught in a violent takeover of a road or a bridge or an actual neighborhood, and you've got certain things, whichever thing, that's going to trigger people, that's going to be a problem. So again, number one, we're not going to panic. We're going to breathe. We're going to speak words of affirmation. We're going to be okay, guys. We just got to walk through it. Number two, we're going to seek safety. We're going to be alert. How many times have you heard me say, in today's world, you've got to be alert and aware. You've got to be paying attention to what's going on around you, especially in a crowd. When you're moving through that crowd, if you happen to get caught in a crowd, you move nonchalantly. You don't move, you're not freaking out. You're not trying to demonstrate that fear, because remember, panic and fear will incite panic and fear. You want to be the calm one, the cool, hey, how you doing? Come on, let's go. But you got the plan. I call it the Jason Bourne mode. You've got the plan for the next thing that you're doing. You're staying in the game. You're breathing. You're not panicking. You're looking for that option, and you're blending in, because the goal, remember, is for you to go home, and you're going to be the one that is not going to get caught up and attacked, because you're just, you know what to do. You're keeping your composure. And remember, the fourth one is don't just not antagonize, don't confront, because you will have people that are going to confront. Hey, what do you want? What do you do? You're probably one of them. And here's the bottom line. you gotta think about that, and you gotta go, oh, come on, man. Yeah, why would I be here if I'm doing that? It's funny, when we would work certain areas of my previous life and we would be embedded into crowds, the biggest thing is just to fit in. And that's what I would encourage you in a situation like this, because remember, your goal is to go home safe if you have your family, to get them safe and unharmed. And by the way, the quicker you can get away from the crowds, the quicker you can get away from the danger, the quicker you can begin to rethink, settle down, and recalibrate what's going on, because after an incident like that, you're going to be shaking and nervous, and that's again part of the process. How do we stay safe in a hostile crowd? So number 4, we're avoiding confrontation. And then number 5, and I've already touched on it, but I just can't stress it enough. Folks, you're not out of danger until you're out of danger. There may be a lull, there may be an opportunity for you to go into a store, but that doesn't mean it's over yet. So we're going to stay vigilant, we're going to stay aware, we're going to keep planning. And this is where prior preparation for your security is absolutely everything. Folks, I don't have to tell you that things are getting more and more interesting every single day in our country. Right now in California, Chicago, roads are shut down. Angry people, angry mobs, anybody that they suspect of being pro-Israeli or pro-Jewish, they're going to become the enemy. And we've seen demonstrated violence expanding. Well, you may not necessarily have anything to do with the protest, but you can get caught in the protest. And so 5 things, again, that you need to avoid if you get caught in a hostile crowd. And if you're able to think about these things, able to plan for them, think about, how would I stay calm? I touched on 2 things: breathing, positive self-talk. By the way, that's based on the latest research. You keep your brain calm, you keep air in your body, you're thinking clearly. That's what has to happen. So number 1 is stay calm. Number 2 is you're going to seek safety. You're going to be focusing on, okay, how do I get out of here? Maybe your route is straight ahead, but that's blocked. Is it okay for you to turn around and get out of Dodge? Is it okay for you to turn right, and then go back the other way? Hey, let me give you the short answer. Absolutely it is. We just need to get you safe. And I know there are some that are going to ask, hey, I'm armed. What do I do? You do what I said. Remember, that weapon is a last resort, and that's only under all 50 states if you're an imminent threat of death or serious physical body harm. So you want to, although you may have that ability, you definitely don't want to share that ability. You want to exercise wisdom, get out of Dodge. Now, if you're confronted and it is getting violent and you have no other options, then my hope and prayer is that you're prepared, trained, and wise under the law in how you would use any tool you have. And so, and then number 3, you're going to blend in. You're going to not try to stick out. This is a great opportunity for you just to flow right through. We're definitely not number 4. We're definitely not going to confront anybody, not the time or place. And by the way, that can incite a whole lot of violence, because you probably watch like I have. Anybody that begins to stick out is instantly what I call beehived. And that's they're surrounded. And folks, I don't care how skilled you are in personal defense, self-defense weapons. If you've got 5, 10, 15, 20 angry people beehiving you, it's a bad day. So we don't want to be there. And then number 5, we want to stay aware, alert, and in a constant state of planning, the Jason Bourne mindset. Because here's the reality, folks, and we talk about this all the time on our channel. We talk about different scenarios. Why do I talk to you about different scenarios? because in a crisis, we know that you're going to rise or you're going to fall to the level of your training. We also know the training matters, but that 90% of what is needed in a crisis situation is psychological. That's based on research. And I have to tell you, the research was generated out of the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center because they were watching officers die on camera, and they were trying to figure out why, what's happening, and they realized that officers could, if they weren't trained, prepared, and ready, they could become paralyzed in their thinking. And that's not where we want to be given everything that's going on in our country. So again, 5 things to avoid if you get caught in a hostile crowd. Number 1, don't do it. Don't get near them. But number 1, you gotta stay calm, folks. You gotta stay in. Because if you're calm and you're with your family, they're gonna stay calm. They're gonna feed off you. You're staying alert. Number 2, you're seeking that safe route out. Goal is to get out, get home, and get safe. And number 3, we're going to blend in. We're not going to try to stick out of the crowd. We're not going to act afraid. We're not going to, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. We're not doing any of that. We're just going to blend in. We're going to flow through, and we're going to get to safety. Number 4, and this is a big one, we will not confront people. That's not the place. When there are thousands of angry people that are protesting a cause they deeply believe in, that's not the time to say, you guys really need to get a life. Probably not a good idea. You're not going to confront. And then number 5, and we've got to stay aware, alert, and thinking through, okay, I'm in a store now, but what do I do if it starts going bad from here? What do I do if there's gunshots? What do I do if there's burning? How do I get out of here? What do I do with my family? Maybe you have older folks with you. Now is the time, folks, to start thinking through how we're going to respond if we find ourselves in some of these events that are occurring more and more and more. And that's what I just wanted to jump on and encourage you. You know, that's what we do at LionHeart. That's why we do this type of live and our videos. My purpose in life is to help people have the skills that they need in the midst of a growingly violent world so that you and your family can be with those that you love. So I hope this is helpful to you. I hope that I see a lot of folks jumping on. Shalom. Folks from all over the country. I love that gray man, gray woman thing, Matt. Obviously, things are we want to be as colorless as possible in the midst of it. And so, folks, I hope that if I know there's some folks here from Australia and from all over, I hope that whatever country you're in, you're thinking through your emergency preparedness. And now's the time. We're seeing things change so very quickly that it's really important. And you've heard me say this if you listen to my channel. Security is your responsibility. You have to own your own security. And I'm not just talking about getting caught in crowds. I'm talking about things like, what would you do if you couldn't get to the food at the grocery store because there's no food on the shelf? How would you supply yourself with water? Is your residence safe? Do you have security measures in place there? Do you have the ability to defend yourself? If things were to go out in terms of power, communications, have you thought through these things? Because folks, those of you that know me, I'm not a naysayer. I'm not a doom and gloom person, but I will tell you, I'm watching carefully what's going on. And I am realizing that for all of us, everybody listening to this, we've got to have a plan to protect ourselves and our families. The one thing I learned in the Secret Service is that security is always planned and proactive. We want to make sure that we're not sitting back waiting for the bad thing to happen. Rather, we're the ones that are wise, prepared, trained for this season of our country. So I hope and pray that some of these tips are helpful for you. It seems like, right now, the reason I did the live right now is it's happening right now. California, Chicago, we've seen it in DC. We're seeing it everywhere. So I hope that at least these 5 things get you thinking, hey, that's a good question. What would I do if I was in a car with my family, if I'm walking down the street, I see it coming? The biggest thing, folks, for all of us in this season is to be wise and prepared. And so I think these 5 things to avoid in a hostile crowd can be very, very helpful. And I hope that you and your family are staying safe. And if you haven't jumped over to @LionHeart Skills and signed up on YouTube, we would love to. By the way, let me just say this. The likes are very appreciated, as you know. The algorithms, for YouTube are very like, share, subscribe based. I really am hoping and praying this information gets out to everybody because we all need it. And together, we're much stronger. So I hope and pray this is helpful. And I'm going to go ahead and just make this a quick one. We'll be doing other lives, and I'll be talking about some stuff. Pretty concerned about, the recent arrest in Minneapolis of the guy that was targeting 21 churches. I think if houses of worship aren't really waking up and preparing for how to protect themselves, now would be a good time to think about that. But anyway, we'll be circling back around and talking to you soon. So I hope this is helpful. Please stay safe out there, and God bless you guys. We'll see you next time.